All right, so we're Rapid Application Development Lesson 10, and we're talking about database applications today. And the first part is going to be for us to install our WAMP server as part of our plan. So let's go to the slide for a second. Actually, let me just review this part. So we're going to do WAMP server. We're going to talk about if you have, I say here if required, here's our little plan for today's lesson. The reason why I'm saying install the MySQL ODBC driver if required is because if you're running Windows 8, you don't need to do this, right? And if you're running Windows 7, you will need to do this, right? The ODBC driver, you will have to install it properly, else you may have an issue connecting to your MySQL database. What was that? Windows 8? No. Okay. You have to install the dotConnect from MySQL Express Edition, and you do that through Visual Studio, and I'll show you where to do that. We're going to talk about some basic database terminology, but just to revisit this with you, this is not a database class, so we will not be teaching you how to do databasing. All right? We're not going to say, hey, this is what you do. Here's a query statement and all that kind of stuff. We're not doing that today. All we're doing is we're saying, hey, here's a database. How do I connect to it? How do I get data? And that's the scope of this lesson. If I was to talk and teach you guys database again, it doesn't make any sense, and it would take way more than one lesson to do it any justice. Okay. It says create Windows and web projects. One thing I have to mention is that we're skipping the web component of this course altogether for a couple of reasons. One, I don't have time. I want to get into object-oriented programming with C#. I want to talk about packaging your programs up a little bit. And that's going to take the majority of my time from now until the end, okay? If I was going to talk web, they only have really one lesson that I could talk about, making web forms and working with ASP.NET and so on. And there's other courses that deal with that. Rich, one of our other professors here, he deals with ASP.NET here a lot more. And if you haven't done it with him, I'm not sure who's worked with Rich yet. You may work with him again. He's going to work with Visual Studio and ASP.NET. He does a lot more of that. So I don't want to step on his toes, so we're going to kind of skip that part. And we're not going to really talk web too much. Kind of keep you guys focused on application development here with Windows. And again, there's also opportunities here for our course if we wanted to go into, game development. That would kind of maybe might be a part 2 of this course. If we had a second course instead of Rapid Application Development 1, and then game development with Windows part 2, kind of thing. That'd be great. But we don't have time for that, so we're going to do basics. But nothing that's going to be so challenging. It wouldn't be fair for you. So that's why we're kind of focused today on database. Next week it's going to be on data files. And like I said earlier, if you can't come in, at least watch the lessons. You need them for assignment number 4. Okay, so we're going to talk about a data grid view, how to do that, bind data to text boxes and labels, and allow the user to select from a combo box or list box to display corresponding record in data-bound controls. All right, so let's prepare your environment. So the slides say, go to this site, wampserver.com/en. You're going to notice on my slides, the versioning on my slides, I haven't changed these up because this is as of this writing. When I wrote this slide, the version was 2.2.21, and it was PHP 5.38 and so on. Now it's going to be a different version. So if I go on the Windows side, so let me just go back to my my virtual machine here. It's not what I wanted. There we go. And quit that too. What I'm going to show you, go to full screen mode. I've already got WAMP installed, right? But I'm going to show you where to get everything, install everything for you. So to save time, I'm not going to install WAMP with you. But there are some issues that you may have. If you haven't done this on the website for advanced web programming, you can do it here. So my version of WAMP, if you notice, again, is, if I look at version, is 2.4.4, so quite more advanced. Let me just launch Chrome here. So if I was going to just put in wampserver.com, it takes you to this screen here. And if I click, normally, if you notice, it looks like it's in French. I click English if you haven't gone to the right link.
They just assume everybody in Canada speaks French.
Well, actually, I think it's from France. It's the service in France. Huh?
The company in
Yeah, so
Why they assume French?
Oh, they just don't have
Yeah.
any LP checking.
yeah.
No. It's just,
So if I click download, there's different options. There's the 32-bit version. Obviously, there's only one of them. Why? Because most computers these days 64-bit, right? So any of these 64-bit versions will work. If you want the latest version of PHP and MySQL, I recommend this one. Okay? So click this one. Now, it says, warning, you must have C++ 2010, SP1 distribution package, blah, blah, blah. If you have Windows 8 installed and you've installed Visual Studio 2012, you're good. You don't have to do this. You can just click here where it says you can download it directly. Okay, so avoid these steps here. You don't need to do that, right? So click there, and then it's going to take you to SourceForge, of course, and it's going to start downloading your code. Right now, I'm not going to do that, obviously, so I'll skip this port. So let's say, for example, after I've installed it and run it, and if you follow the steps, by the way, I'm just going to go back to the presentation here. If you follow the steps, if you notice, it says download it, right? And after you've downloaded it, it'll look something like this. It'll tell you what WAMP server looks like. Just press next, next, next. Accept the defaults is what I'm asking you. Again, alternatives to WAMP are MAMP for the Mac, XAMPP or LAMP, a LAMP stack for Linux or Ubuntu of any kind of different kind of Linux, any brand, any flavor. So you can choose one of those. And what you want to do is you want to get this green icon on the tray. If you don't have a green icon on the tray after you've installed WAMP, it means one of two things. Your installation went awry, right, which is possible. Okay. The other option is your installation went okay, but you have something else that's blocking the port 80 or 3306, which on the MySQL side, right? So what you need to do is you need to do some troubleshooting on your machine. For today's class, if you want to follow along, and if you already have WAMP installed, you're good. If you can't make it work on your machine, or you don't want to fool with your production environment that your machine is using, or your development environment, there's two options. You can do it in the machine in front of you, right? On the school machine, it's not going to hurt it, right? So go ahead and do it. In worst case scenario, it's going to reboot and it's going to refresh everything, and you're good. Okay? So if you don't want to do it on your own machine. But what we want to do is we want to get to this green tray icon. Okay? So I'll wait for you guys to install it a bit, and I'll keep talking. Who does not have a green tray icon? Or if you've installed WAMP? Who does have a green tray icon? Okay, that's good. Green tray icon means you're good. You're good to go. You're green. Okay, so if I go back, so here's my green tray icon, just to give you what it looks like again. And again, if you haven't used this right now, and you're doing advanced web programming with Carmen, as an example, this is a good test environment. I use this all the time when I do my teaching, right? If you watch the videos, you'll see it. And some of you may ask, hey, why the hell do I need WAMP anyway? If I want to use a live source or some kind of provider, service provider, and that's great, right? But I think there's nothing wrong with setting up your own little environment, testing it locally first before you send it up to your server somewhere. So I think something like this is a valid and a useful tool that you can use. What you want to get to is you want to get to this screen here, and if I click on localhost, right, it should give you whatever database you've got going on. Whatever website you've got going. Right now, mine's pointing to this other site that I've been working on with the advanced web programming folks on my sections, which is I'm making this new site called the Greek Gourmet, right, with WordPress. We're talking about WordPress a little bit in advanced web applications, right? And what we're also talking about is how to connect the MySQL database to WordPress. That's why this is up here for us. But it doesn't really matter. We're not going to be doing a website today. We care about the MySQL database that's attached to the server. So if I go back, did I close it just now? I don't know what I did. I probably went to Unity mode again. What was that? You guys agree? I am. Yeah. I screwed it up. And that's okay. Here it is. if you're green, what we need to go to is, if you look at the slides, we're going to go to phpMyAdmin, this link right here. So click there. It's going to take you to this screen, depending on what you're using. And usually the username is root or no username and password at all, right? The username would be root, password is nothing, and you press go. Or you won't have this screen at all, and it'll take you right in. So here I am. I've got a bunch of these databases I've already pre-installed for our class today. For example, C# Auto, Contacts. One of the ones I need is R&R Books. You can get these databases right now off of Blackboard, which I already have up there for you. Okay, so on Blackboard, you'll see there's a database .zip file, and you can download. Yeah.
How do you get into the phpMyAdmin if you've never used it before?
Here, phpMyAdmin.
Well, I'm at the password page. And it doesn't.
Just
Root.
and then nothing.
Root and password, and the password is nothing. If everything goes well, you should be getting in like that. Okay. Now, in this scenario, it's great. I have no passwords and so on. Typically, what we want to do with WAMP is we want to set up a password to make it more secure. And if you're running a server somewhere, as an example, and God forbid you'd be doing something like that, like if you're running it in a small to medium-sized business, and some owner says to you, hey, John, or Tom, they come to me sometimes and say, can I set up a server locally instead of paying a provider? I'm like, yeah, but that would be really foolish to do. It's not good, right? Only because from a speed perspective, they're going to be cut off at the legs. Their website would be really, really slow, right? Same thing with email and all that. So I don't recommend it, but sometimes they're in a larger organization. They have servers you can set this stuff up on. You need to secure your phpMyAdmin, or if you're using a corporate level one, you're going to have username and password. They'll be fully secured, and wouldn't be exposed to the outside world. In this case, what you want to do is you want to set up, you go to users, and if you notice, I've already set myself up here as Thomas, but let's set up a new user just for our demonstration purposes, right? I want to say add user, who's with me, by the way. Okay, add user. And in here, I want to put a username, so I'm going to put the username John, right? And my host is always going to be localhost if I've set up my WAMP server correctly, right? So here's localhost. My password, I'm just going to say password for our purposes, and the S's are going to be 5s, okay? So PA55 word, okay? And again, I'll have to retype that, PA55 word, okay? You can also generate your own password as well, but you just don't do that for now. I don't want to create a database for the users, so we're going to skip this part. But I do want to check all for global privileges, because we want to make kind of a super user for our purposes, right? So check all, and then press go. When you press go, you should get a screen that looks like this. You have added a new user, right here. And when you look at the user in your user list here, right, in your database user list, right, you're going to see that it's John is my user, or whatever your name is, localhost for host, password yes, global privileges all privileges, because we don't want to limit privileges for now. And then grant is yes. Okay, so this is kind of like a super user. I don't want to see root and no password. That would be bad. And chances are we want to kind of simulate what it would be like to connecting with a username and password. That's why I've made you create the username. Otherwise, you could use root and a blank password, but I don't recommend it. Okay, next step is this. We have to go into our quick databases up here on the top, right? And if you notice, I've got all these different databases, right? Because I've already imported R&R Books and all this kind of stuff. And remember, on Blackboard, you're going to have a bunch of these SQL, .SQL files, right? The only one you really need for today is R&R Books. I've added other ones that you can look at and play with if you want to. You would click on Import, right? And under Import, you would browse to find your SQL file, as an example. And I'll let you do that. And then after you've done that, you don't change any of these settings if it's a SQL file, and you press Go. Once you've done that, it'll import the database into your phpMyAdmin, right? And MySQL will have an entry here that's R&R Books, and under R&R Books, you're going to have two tables, books and subjects. That's what you should see, and it's automatically generated. It's a script that will run that will add the database and all of its information into MySQL. And by the way, as an aside, right, not on the slides, you can do this for any database, right? So, example is if you're moving, for people who are interested in when you're working with WordPress or other sites, you're moving WordPress from your local development environment or your local local development environment to the server online somewhere, your host, your service provider. You would export your database and all of its information, and then import your database and all of its information online, and that's how you would use your. You would set up your files. You would copy all of your files online, and the only thing you have to do change is your pathing. Okay, your paths would have to be a little bit modified for images and so on. But the import and export feature included with phpMyAdmin are the kind of two very useful features. And that's why we're able to kind of generate this database very quickly. Who hasn't done that? Who can't do their R&R books? Is everyone with me? Okay.
I had to download the zip file, so I'm getting there.
You have to download zip from
From the website?
Okay.
The Blackboard?
Okay, good. So again, you'd have to import. Just go. There's three little folders there. I've got one that's for Access database. If you want to use an Access database version, there's another one for the MDF version for the SQL. Microsoft SQL database, if you want to check that out. And there's a third version, which is the MySQL version that you can load into your phpMyAdmin. Okay, so you've got this done, assuming that you've got this going. Let's go back to the presentation, make sure we don't miss anything. And we've kind of gone through these steps already, right? And you may or may not see these exact same screens as your phpMySQL phpMyAdmin, version might be a little bit more advanced than mine, and you might see some other changes. If you're going to use, this would be the next step. So you're running Windows 7, and you're going to download this MySQL ODBC driver, and this is I've given you the link here on the slides to go get it. So dev.mysql.com, downloads connector ODBC. You need that sometimes, again, for Windows 7 computers. And I think they even have it for Windows XP as well. So R&R books? No, that's the MDF version. You want to go to the MySQL version. You're in the SQL version. Okay. So again, you need this because, and the way you check it would be, you go to Control Panel, Administrative Tools, Data Sources, and you look under ODBC, the driver section of ODBC, and you can see that in this particular example, this screenshot that I have from Windows 7, it includes the driver version and so on. If you don't have this driver version and running Windows 7, you may have trouble connecting to your MySQL database. You need this driver to connect with Visual Studio. Okay. Now we have to install dotConnect Express for MySQL, and you have to do that within Visual Studio itself. So here's Visual Studio. You go to Tools, Extensions and Updates, right? When you go to Extension and Updates, you click on the left on the sidebar here, you click Online, right? And in the search field on the right, you can put in lowercase MySQL, right? Press Enter. It's going to give you, oops, of course I'm pressing Enter for the wrong things. If you search here, it'll put up different kinds of versions of dotConnect, and all you need is this one here, dotConnect Express. It's a free version of the extension. There are paid-for versions for the extension as well, but they will expire, I believe, within 30 days. We don't want to do that, so you might as well keep it like this. You download, you click to download, you follow the links, and you install dotConnect Express for MySQL. You may have to reboot your Visual Studio, and when you do, under Tools, you'll see a MySQL option here under Tools, right?
I don't have that option for dotConnect.
So if you go to Online on the left,
Online, MySQL.
and I don't know why you don't have that. The same thing. Click on the top there.
Removes my search.
I don't know why. I'm going to go over here and MySQL.
And just brings you
back to the search results. It's already
Weird.
installed.
It's possible, but unlikely. Click online again. It's not weird. Go to Samples Gallery? No. Web Essentials. Start typing MySQL with, or dotConnect. Start typing dotConnect. For some reason, yours doesn't like it. I don't know why yours doesn't show up. But anyways, you can go to dotConnect if you search on the web. If I was going to do it, look, there's another way of doing it. If you can't get the, and one of us has a problem getting on it, right? So if I go to Tools, again, Extensions and Updates, and I want to download dotConnect, I click Online again. It goes to my Visual Studio Gallery. Like mine, this little link doesn't open up for me, like controls and templates and all that. I just click this Close, and I type in MySQL without pressing Enter, right? It'll go to Search Results under Tools, and it'll show me dotConnect Express. But if I click Download, right, it won't just download. Well, I will, but it'll go to this site, www.devart.com. So let's go there instead. Yeah, I know you do. Devart.com. And if you go there, eventually when my computer works, there we go. And I want to go download. If I scroll down, right, then I want to find that tool, dotConnect Express. I don't know if this may not be the free version from MySQL. Might be, you need dotConnect Express. Does it? Under free? Or if you just click download, you mean? Yeah, there you go. So if you click download for MySQL, there's dotConnect Express is what you want. 13 megabytes, 13.59, and you can download it from the site as well, right? Now it says registration on our site, but it's free registration. They just send you information. It's a good little extension to use.